Order. Do you have any public comment? Hearing none. Next topic is discussion and approval of library management agreement.
First up, I want to apologize for bringing this the way it's being brought. This is a complete oversight on my part. However, not getting this passed could cost the county significantly. It is a continuation, basically, of a contract we are currently in that expires at the end of this month. What this does is consolidate all of the county's legal print that we get from Thompson West, which includes both the elections department, the solicitor's office, all of the judges, the public defender, the district attorney's office, and a few other row offices that receive print. This is just the new contract to continue that, which locks us into a 5% increase per year on print volume. Without the contract, we lose all of the discounts that we get for bulk purchasing. We also go back to the regular price increases on the print volume, which is anywhere from 15 to 20% instead of the 5% lock-in. I would like to point out that we did reduce some of our print. So instead of a 5% increase from the current contract to the new year start contract, there's only a 4.35% increase because we did get rid of some volumes that departments determined they no longer were using or no longer needed. And again, I apologize, this was my fault.
Any questions?
I'm just trying to review, we've received an email from our solicitor's office from this.
Yeah, I think I answered all her questions. I'm not sure if you were copied on.
I haven't had a chance.
She has, okay. Was there a specific question that you wanted?
Yeah, well, it had something to do, it says that she has, from a formal standpoint, is this LMA is substantially the same form as the county fire? And it is a kind of
Yeah.
LMA.
It's library maintenance agreement.
She says here governing law is Minnesota state law.
And we have an existing contract. This is just the new contract for the next 3 years. We're already under contract with them.
Well, I'm just reading the first time. It says, I'm not anticipating any dispute, that said any dispute will be resolved in Minnesota.
That's where Thompson West is headquartered. And many of these volumes are only available through Thompson West. We are unable to get them through a different vendor. They are exclusive to the provider.
Well, all right, I will make this comment. I don't like being presented with things that we have to decide on the same day. Okay, so having said that, I'll make a motion to approve the library management agreement.
Okay, is there a second? Also. I have a motion and a second. Any questions? Any other questions, comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your indulgence in this.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Next, Jamie Keeney, Cobra Information Aggregation and Sharing System.
Mind if we sit up here so we can hear better?
Where are you on?
So I'd like to introduce Dave Hefner from Cody. I have Dave Hall from Lower Allen and Doug Hockenberry from Camp Hill. And the reason we're here to talk to you today is about the Cobra system. To give you an idea, and here's some handouts to go with those. I know you have our capital request, a copy of that. And essentially what this, the way I describe this is the system which I think bad guys think that we already have, but don't. So essentially what happens in law enforcement, and I'll let the experts talk a little bit about it in a moment, but the idea here is that as a police officer from any police department, if I'm investigating an individual on, say, an arson or a bank robbery or whatever, that person may be in your jurisdiction just a day before with a gas can or a gun or something of that nature, and for me to know that you encountered that individual, there would be nothing in the system. It'd be in your police system, and it'd be in my police system, but the two systems wouldn't talk to each other. So the idea is that if I'm from another police department, I could look up at that individual's name and say, oh, Sergeant, so-and-so dealt with that person on that day. I could call them up, I could get the police report, and the two of us could chat and say, oh, you know what, he was wearing a red mask in mine, and that way you get that real-time information more quickly. So that's the bare bones of it, and it's an oversimplification of it. But the idea is that, and what the hope is, that we're prepared to do this. We have 18 of the 22 police agencies that are willing to reimburse, which is why we have over a 5-year period where they will reimburse their licenses. And so each year, as the software is updated, that's a guarantee for that. It's $50,000 that we're looking to start the seed and do it for each year. And then, of course, each of the departments that sign on to it, they would reimburse as that goes. And my thought process, or our thought process, of course, is that as this grows, there's just going to be that much more information. There are police departments already in Dauphin County doing this. At the rate that we're getting this now, there would not be the installation fee because it's already started in Dauphin County, Lancaster, and so forth. In fact, even when we met in the initial meeting, to workshop it, it's my understanding that there have been more police departments that have already then grown throughout the different counties as well. So if you can even imagine, this is kind of interesting, and again, I'll let Dave have to talk about this a little bit, but if there's a police stop and it goes right into the system right then and there, within minutes then, if someone else encounters that person, like they say there's a bank robbery and they had just pulled over for a speeding ticket just 20 minutes earlier, and you have even a partial description of a vehicle, then you can get that real time and very quickly. And the story that they, I'll let them tell the story about it, but in comparison to a number of years ago, Raymond Peake was a SCI, Camp Hill corrections officer who killed someone at the shooting range in North Milton Township. Had we had this system in place, it would not have taken us 4 days to track down that vehicle. We would have been able to do that in real time, probably within hours, as opposed to going for days. The other interesting thing that I felt was particularly important about this is that, one, the police officers will have this on their phones. So they could actually call up this information on their phone. They're not waiting for Clean or JNet or anything of that nature. This is real time for those apps, and they're able to do it. And what that means to me is when you have an Amber Alert for a child that's missing, or you have a person with Alzheimer's who's missing, and you have to be on the lookout for within the departments themselves, which it's kind of a scary thing, and you see those on Facebook and you see them everything else. But this is even faster. So in the winter times when you have someone exposed to the elements, or you have someone with a medical issue, or those are the types of things that has implications that's even beyond just the typical law enforcement. Hey, I want to know what's going on this particular day. So I'm going to have Dave Hall talk about the interest with Lower Allen. Doug is in charge of the Chiefs of the Police Association, which is why I have him here as well, because of the other chiefs and speaking with the other chiefs. Then I'll have Dave finish up and just amplify. And if at any point, certainly ask me any questions as we go. So Dave, would you like to share some of your insights about the need for this system?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for seeing us here today. The problem in law enforcement information processing is that all of the records management systems, by and large, are silos. There wasn't a push at the PHE's level to start a unified RMS system. It's been seized by some people, but not everyone. And so the problem we have is if I have an individual or a vehicle or something else that I want to look for, or the officers in my department want to look for, we're stuck with our records management system. And our crime is mobile. You know, it travels across the river largely for us, as we all know. All of the incidents that you have seen press-wise from Lower Island, or Walmart or other places, have come from elsewhere. They're not our residents. And for us to get that information readily through our own system, means we would have had to have contact with them previously. We just had an incident like that where someone fled, and all we had was KCC as the 3 digits of the license number. The first digit is not the rest of the 4. And we had to go to the state police, to their PASIC. They had to run a number of options and come back and say, these are possible options for you. We eventually identified it, but it was hours into that investigation. And with a product like this, if anybody else would have had that type vehicle with KCC in the registration, we would have had that on the cell phone of the officer at the scene, or at the comm center or wherever. So it's information at the speed of your fingertips, basically, which gives us a tremendous advantage when we're investigating crimes and we're trying to figure out who our suspect might actually be, and gets us light years ahead. Heretofore, because of the technology advances, we had difficulty getting that information. There were crime meetings where you would get together and you would share that information maybe 2 weeks later. Now technology has allowed us to advance to the point where we have it. And Dave Hefner can tell you about a case down in the southeast where if this system would have been available at the time, an officer may have been saved. So there's the benefits of this are far beyond what the cost is in terms of the efficiency of operations of law enforcement. It's one of the things I said before, I just waited my whole career, because I came from a different department previously, for something like this to happen, and finally is at the point where we're there and we can utilize that. And we met with Dauphin County, Doug can talk a little bit about that, Chief Hockenberry. We met with Dauphin County Police Departments are on board with this, the DA in Dauphin County is on board with this. This becomes our own little node of that system because we share information across the river very often, or at least that's where our crime is transported. We all know of too many other incidents where that's occurred as well. So the benefit is tremendous for us in central Pennsylvania. Dave can mention some of the things that he's done with other departments and where this has expanded even beyond central Pennsylvania. Because we have connections, and everybody knows that the opioid crisis is here. It's an epidemic, and they also travel. They travel through all of these central Pennsylvania counties in their trafficking, and this is just one tool that we can use to help kind of nip that a little bit. So,
sure. I also like to thank you guys for taking your time today to listen to us and to point out some of the things that Dave said. For many years, we've been working to figure out who the people are. We used to have a system out of Harrisburg called Metro. Metro was connected with almost all of Dauphin County and even expanded to us in Cumberland County. Metro went away. So for the days that I could look up Harrisburg City's report and find out what Todd Bayshore did, I can't do that anymore. We got handcuffed whenever Metro went away, and this was like the blessing in disguise for us to come off because we were able to work with Dauphin County and Ed Marsico and their departments over there to be able to get this back up and running. So when I punch up Todd Bayshore's name, I know that he was with Vince. So I may be looking for Vince, but I have no way of knowing who Vince was. So now I do. I can put those 2 to 2 together and be able to come up with who Vince is without days or weeks or months of trying to figure out who he is or sending out emails. All the county chiefs are on board with this. As I said, I'm on CNET, Dave is on Cody. I can't even tell you what Dave is doing over in Lower Island that he borders us. So his retail thefts that are happening at Walmart are the same retail thefts that happen at Boscov's, but I don't know who the players are. Unless I listen to the radio 24/7, I don't know that retail theft was involved or a robbery involving a silver car until I get it at my store, and then I have to rely on patrol officers to say, hey, FYI, we just had that car too about 2 weeks ago. So now we're comparing notes. I might have the last 2 digits of the registration. They might have the first 3, but now with this system, we're going to be able to put it all together and know immediately that we have that person and I can go to that guy's house to make the arrest, to make the street safer. And it's just not only crime, it's gonna help us out with the opium epidemics, because if I punch in Doug Hockenberry's name and I see that he got a ticket in Philadelphia, I know he's running a Philly on drugs and he's using that car. That's also gonna help us with the drug task force to be able to put surveillance up on that car, knowing that every week he gets a ticket on the turnpike because he's flying down to Philly and back to buy his heroin to support us. So it all works together. It's a huge reporting system, but unfortunately we're not all in the same RMS, but with this system and our money, we're gonna be able to be on that. So it's just fingertips away. And be able to get the chiefs to all buy into that, it was easy to do. I can tell you from East Pennsboro to New Cumberland to Carlisle to Shippensburg, it was a no-brainer if we can get this done.
Let me ask you a question on this, because the old Metro system, as I recall, every police force had to pay into that as a on a subscription basis. So is this envisioned to be the same?
Yes.
Yes.
What will happen is you'll have the seat money from the district attorney's office.
Is the task force money?
No, unfortunately, we can't use task force money because we have to use exclusive drug stuff with task force money. So under the audit from the Attorney General's office, if I were to buy this task force money, I could only use this for task force stuff. I wouldn't be able to offer it to other.
Okay.
But yes, Gary, you are right.
So for us, we're looking at the 80, 5, 36, and 25 per year for 5 years, meaning no escalators are built in.
Correct.
That's 402,681.25. And so how much of that is defrayed by the subscription?
It's about $30,000 of it, and that's divided by the department. Obviously, we don't expect
By use.
by usage, so I don't expect, like Camp Hill has 12 officers, we split it up. Lower Allen pays more than what I do because I only have 12 officers, he has 30 or set. So it goes by the department size also.
And just for a second on that,
Yeah.
if you look at this, I believe the second page, you'll see the actual breakdown. You'll see the actual breakdown. It starts at the end of the first page.
End of the first page.
Right
So
there.
that adds up to
About 30, I think it's roughly 30,000.
annually?
Yes.
So we're talking 30,000, and the balance, which would be well over $350,000, is shouldered by.
It's annual, so we're paying that, our user fee every year.
Oh, I see.
Right, yes,
Right.
yes.
Right. Okay.
And
So-
50,000 is annual. So the 50,000 is the portion that will be for the county. And the
Okay.
30,000, the
So it's
remainder.
basically a 50-30, roughly speaking,
Roughly,
50-30
yeah.
split
Yes.
on an annual.
Yes.
And that's why I put on as a 30 other, and you might see on the request, it says 50, for the general, revenue, but then the 30 under other would be the reimbursement from the, did you want my copy? I'm sorry.
I don't have a request. I've got these two papers. There's a request somewhere.
Okay, yeah, this is the capital request itself, so.
But to go back on investigation, there's so many times that East Pennsboro, West Shore Regional, myself, Hampton Township, and we're setting, if we just had Metro back again, we could have solved this crime 10 times faster. But it was gone, but it's gone. I can't not fix
How long ago
it.
Metro?
Metro left about 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
What happened? Why was that? What part was that?
Just because their system was not up to par.
They
It was a
weren't
DOS.
upkeeping it, yeah.
It wasn't an upkeep on it, so
And then some of our police departments were using, do I have this right, CNET? We were using CNET?
Almost everybody used Metro. And then once Metro said, we're going away, we're not doing it anymore, we had to get out. So our option was to get out to go to like the Cody or the CNET. Majority of us chose CNET
That's what I
after
thought,
that.
yeah.
And that's a state-run system where we are able to view what Hampton Township or East Penn's doing. But I can't view anybody else. I can't view anything that's happening in Dauphin County. I can't view what's happening in Lower Allen Township,
Why is
North Middle, just because there's two different reporting systems. It's like nobody's reading each other. CNET is here with their system and Cody's here. It's like two silos.
It's independent databases, so the databases don't coalesce, whereas that's what Cobra does.
Cobra will branch those two systems over, so it'll put like a walk bridge across it. All the information goes into CNET, walks over to Cody. All the Cody information walks over to CNET. all the stuff from Instincts in Dauphin County will reach the other two. Everything from visual alert will eventually
Right.
come over.
So
So it's like a motherboard of information.
So maybe it's a good time for me to kind of fill in some gaps here. So a little bit about us as a company before I get into the technology, just so you know who we are. My name is Dave Hefner, Executive Vice President and co-owner of Cody Systems. We are a second-generation family company, wholly owned by my family. We're headquartered in Pottstown, so we're right here in Pennsylvania. We've been here for 40 years. This system that we're talking about is essentially for lack of a better term, a universal database translator. So,
Like a Rosetta Stone.
like a Rosetta Stone, right. So you have some agencies, some police departments that choose RMS provider 1, so let's call that CNET. Other agencies choose RMS provider 2, Instinct. Some people choose Metro Alert. Some people choose Cody Systems. Some people choose, there are hundreds of these different RMSs.
As soon as you say universal translator, you got all the Star Trek fans.
The bagel fish, yeah.
By the way, have you seen Discovery? Because it's really good. I just watched 3 or 4 episodes last night. Anyway, so, gosh, you got me on Star Trek.
See Star Trek continues on YouTube.
No. Anyway, so this system actually started in Berks County about in 1998. They were the first county to sign on to this, and there were about 40 police departments there who had a nearly catastrophic situation with a police officer at a traffic stop, and they all went, whoa. And the reason they did is because he didn't have information literally about a bad guy from the next township over who used a different system. And the police chiefs came together with the district attorney and said, can you help us out with this? And so the first Cobra was actually County of Berks Regional Access. Now that's changed over the years, and now it just stands on its own. But that's where it started. And Pennsylvania is where its roots are. There are, right now, it has spread across, it's in Berks County, Lehigh County, Bucks County, Montgomery County, Chester County, Lancaster County, Dauphin County will be, some agencies in Dauphin and the whole county will be joining soon. Cumberland County, there are either agencies in Lebanon, not all of them, but there are some. Northampton County, Clinton County. So as of right now, this system covers about 1/3 of the population of Pennsylvania, including key population centers of Allentown, Reading, Bethlehem, Lancaster, Bensalem, Easton, Westchester, Pottstown. We'll be covering Harrisburg and Carlisle, hopefully. And all of those different police departments do not use anywhere near the same systems. They're all over the map. There's probably 15 or 20 different systems represented in there. And one of the values that this system will provide, I know the primary value is, of course, Dauphin and Cumberland data. But one of the things, and this is at no additional cost to Cumberland County or anyone here, all of those other nodes in Pennsylvania that I just mentioned, all of those agencies, about 200 and some odd agencies, you will have access, or the police departments will have access to all of that data through this system, not just Cumberland and Dauphin. And as that network grows, as Jamie said, just since we were here for the initial finance meeting, we've added about 20 agencies within the state to this. There's about 20 more that are in the pipeline now that we just talked to at the Chiefs Conference in Philadelphia yesterday. So there are right now there are about 40 to 50 million records, and that includes pictures, it includes information that is up to the second. So if a police officer is out at the scene of a traffic stop at 5 a.m. and there's a vehicle that he or she has never seen before, it's not an NCIC, it's not in their local system, they can still run that tag and not just see anything related to that car, because they don't want to approach that vehicle until they have some idea who's in it. That's the real issue. This system will actually show them a list of people who have been associated with that vehicle from across the entire network in one place within seconds. So they can see, wow, there's 3 different people who have been associated with that vehicle who have red alerts.
Does that mean that they were a part of an incident, a
Yes.
previous incident report?
Yes, they could.
Can I just add one thing? If I'm looking for a silver car because I know there's 2 guys that didn't have the license plate,
Right.
I can put an alert on that
Yes.
registration that I'm looking for 2 people. I need to identify you 2 because you were involved in a burglary. It may be grandma's car, but I know it's 2 males. When I put that alert into their system and Derry Township stops that car,
Yeah.
they're gonna send me an alert immediately on my phone or on my computer. It says, you were looking for a silver car, Derry Township has it. I pick up the phone and say, I'd like to know who's in those 2 cars. I need everybody identified, or I look at it whenever I get that traffic stop done.
Yeah.
That's how quick it is and easy that I can put alerts out. Or even for you, I'm looking for Gary, and I want any department that knows about Gary. Maybe you're stopped in Bucks County,
Right.
but I want to know why you're going to Bucks County for some reason.
Speaking of Bucks County, and it's a tough story to tell, but I think it really is important for you to understand the value of this. And Dave mentioned this a little earlier. Bucks County was the 4th county to join this, and they, unfortunately, there was a officer killed in the line of duty in Bucks County. His name was Brian Gray, and I'll just tell the story. He and his partner stopped a drunk driver early in the evening. Nothing seemed to miss. They ran him through their records management system. They had nothing on this guy. He hadn't had any contact with them. He hadn't done anything to rise to the level of a reportable offense, and NCIC hadn't been arrested ever. So he seemed like just an innocuous drunk. And so they took him to St. Mary's Medical Center and to do the blood draw. And the nurse, seeing that this guy was basically seeming like a normal guy, just a little drunk, asked the officers if they would please loosen the handcuffs, remove the guy's handcuffs, because it would be easier to do the blood draw. Obviously shouldn't have done it in the first place, but Brian Gregg was a rookie cop, trying to do the right thing. And he did it. The instant that the cuffs were off this guy, he changed completely into a lunatic. Knocked the nurse over, knocked Brian Gregg's partner over, kicked Brian, took his service weapon, shot the nurse, shot his partner, who luckily was wearing a vest and got it in the vest, then stood over Brian Gregg and put 3 rounds in his head. Terrible story. But what makes it even more terrible is that literally in the town 5 miles away and another one 10 miles away, those police departments had information that had just been updated, some that day, some 2 weeks ago, some a year ago, on this guy. His name was Robert Floor, and he had never been arrested and never been charged with anything, but he had a documented history of field interview contacts and potential violent tendencies with police officers in that county. There were red alerts all over his record that he was known to do this, and they could never charge him with anything, but he was definitely known to police as a threat. And he was noted as such in those records management systems. In that moment, they didn't have access to the cross-agency information in their mobile unit when they stopped it. If they had, now I can't sit here and say that our system would have saved the life, but I can sit here and tell you that if they had that information, I'm sure that Dave and Doug would agree with me that if they had that information in their car, they would have run it. They would have seen those alerts, and they never would have taken him so lightly. A rookie cop.
And David, tell me what year that was?
That was in 2005.
So that's 2005. Just imagine what the assault that the common people or defendants have towards police officers now, where they're actually being targeted because they're police officers. Not just a safety issue, but again, going back and help me understand, Doug, especially and Dave, with retail thefts, how common is it that they'll steal from this target, from this store, and then come into Cumberland County, return the money, and try to get it back that way?
That's daily. That's daily.
I mean, that's just a common occurrence.
3 people last night just at our boss jobs doing it. So that's daily.
Yeah, they'll go from, in fact, you've probably seen the news about the frauds now, where the Florida groups are coming up here with stolen credit cards and traveling from Walmart in Silver Spring to Walmart in Lower Allen, wherever they can do that card piece. And right now we can't track them across those jurisdictions. This is basically RMS agnostic. It doesn't care what RMS you have. It ties all of that together. It's the connect the dots piece that we've been missing for years.
And just real quick, we had 2 people from Philadelphia use counterfeit $100 bills. We caught them at our boss jobs. They passed 2 of them. We made the arrest. Just fortunate we have a Secret Service agent that lives in town. There's only 2 in Harrisburg. 1 lives in Camp Hill. I made a phone call and said, hey, listen, we got 2 with counterfeit bills. can you come down and interview them? We collected another $800 out of their car, which counterfeit bills. We interviewed them, he interviewed them, never been anywhere else, nothing's ever come up. We started getting filters in from Philadelphia to Harrisburg. They were here, they were there, and at this point, as you know, the federal government, they barely take anything anymore. But he's looking to do an indictment just on the counterfeit monies from these two people. So if this was the case, somebody in another municipality could have punched in Doug Hockenberry's name and counterfeit bills, say, hey, we have them too. They would know that he's locked up in Cumberland County Prison already. And to get back to like resisting arrest or harm to a police officer or other people, the PASIC report, which is the Pennsylvania State Police report that comes out on a daily bulletin, it's almost daily that they have a picture of somebody who's threatening a police officer or their families, but it's not enough to get the arrest, but they give us, hey, be on the lookout for this guy because he made threats. There's one guy particularly not a couple counties away, he's not happy with the police, but it's daily of the progression of the violence that ends up against the state police.
So Dave, can you comment on the difference, because before we asked, why isn't the state already doing, what's the difference between PASIC then and Cobra that, you know, that would supplement that and be more real time?
Sure. PASIC is essentially relying on humans telling people, phoning in tips or sending in information. This is literally connected to the data source itself, so the police officer doesn't need to do anything different. This is not where the police officer has to enter his incident report and then go over to another screen and say, I want to add this to Cobra. This is just part of their daily life. They're just going about their work and their mission, and the system is in the background just listening for those changes. I know I told a terrible story, but I also think this is illustrated really well by a great story that happened in the old Berks Lehigh Regional PD, which is now a bunch of different police departments. But it didn't start very well. There was a hit and run of a 40-year-old girl in a Walmart parking lot. She was okay. She ended up being okay. But and the state police came on the scene, and all they got from the witnesses was that it was a white pickup truck with an out-of-state plate. That's all they got. I didn't even know the make of the truck. It was just a white pickup truck, out-of-state plate. And so the state police were, they're dead in the water. They have nothing to go on. It's not, they check NCI. They don't even, you can't even check NCIs because you don't know a plate number. You have no idea. Well, the local officer from Berks Lehigh Regional, which is the top 10 essentially, was there on scene and said, well, guys, let me check this through Cobra. And he opened up the screen, put white pickup, and show me all white pickups anywhere in the system that have a plate that is not Pennsylvania. I don't know what plate it is, but I know it's not Pennsylvania. And within 5 seconds, the system came back with 2 hits on 2 different white pickup trucks that had been noted not as being threats or anything, but literally were noted in a domestic as being on scene, a South Dakota plate the day before, and a local at another agency in a domestic dispute between a female resident and an unknown male subject. Based on that, the officer, this is all within 30 seconds, calls the number in Cobra for the lady. She says, well, yeah, that's my boyfriend. I met him on the internet. He's in from South Dakota, and he just came back. He was all sweaty and said he had to leave real quickly, and he was heading west. He left like 2 minutes ago, was heading west. This is less than 10 minutes after this happened. They caught the guy 20 minutes later. Without it, he was a ghost. I mean, white pickup truck, but he was a ghost. And that, to me, in a nutshell, got justice for that little girl. And if you can tell about this is something we sell, but it's also something that our company is incredibly passionate about, because we've seen it make a difference in the community. We've seen it save lives. And it's just...
Do you have any demonstration on
Well, I do, except I haven't been able to get the system. I can show it on here, or I can show it on the phone. It's pretty simple. I can probably just show you what it looks like on the laptop. It's tough to see that far, but essentially this is on the laptop. This is on the screen, or it's available on your smartphone. So you can look at it on the phone as well. And you log in from anywhere. You don't need to install anything. You don't need to have a dedicated PC for this. You can log in anywhere. You can have a secure connection. This is all encrypted at the highest levels of FBI. It's called CGIS encryption. But you come in here, you ask Cobra what you want to ask it. You select the agencies that you want to include. You don't always have to drink from the fire hose and select the entire Cobra network. If you are working with a smaller group of agencies that you just want to search today for this, we work with child sex predator task forces where they set up different regions for their task force or drug task forces. So you don't always have to search everything at once. When you select the agencies you want, you say, hey, Cobra, show me all white males aged 25 to 35 who were involved in a burglary last week in these jurisdictions, or all jurisdictions, where the phrase quick brown fox was used in the incident narrative, and a red Ford Tempo with a 3 and a 3rd digit of a non-Pennsylvania plate was used to commit in the commission of that burglary. That's how granular you can get with this. Or you can just ask it for what the officer asked it for in Topton. White pickup truck, out-of-state plate. Or if you're looking for a person, you can just give it a name or a suspect profile and it'll find that too. And two things that Doug mentioned. There's two kinds of actual things you can, what we call, subscribe to in the system. There's the search subscription, where all that search I just came up with, maybe there's an MO for a type of burglary that's happening at Walmarts, and you want to track those. You put in the MO, you put in the time of day, all the different pieces, maybe a bit of a physical description on the subject, and you run that search. You don't find anything. There's nothing across the network. You say, all right, but I want to subscribe to that search. I want to cast that net so that in the future, if anyone anywhere across the Cobra network has an incident, a burglary that matches that MO, or a person that uses that MO in the commission of a burglary, I want to know it. And so the system sits in the background listening for all these changes from all these agencies. And if there is a record that matches that criteria a week from now, a day from now, or 10 years from now, you will get an alert on your smartphone saying, new incident matched your search criteria for this MO. You can do that for any search that you can create in the system. The other side of the subscription is where you know what you're looking for. You have a person of interest, you have a weapon, you have a vehicle that you want to follow. This is used routinely by DAs, by probation and parole users. Law enforcement are heavy users of this, where you can say, that's the person that I want to follow. He may have 50 different records across the region in different systems, but I want Cobra to go and say, oh, this is the same person across these 50 systems, and set what's called an entity subscription on that person. I want to know if he gets an alias added to it at another agency two towns over, or on the other side of the county. So I may have a guy that's named James McAllister, and I may also have this guy named Coogie, but I don't know that James McAllister is Coogie, right? Where two days later, someone on the other side of the county says, oh, I just learned that James McAllister goes by the name alias Coogie, right? You're going to get an alert that says, hey, another guy on the other side of the county said that James McAllister goes by Coogie. Well, now you know, God, we're looking at James McAllister over here and Coogie over here. They're actually the same guy. Stuff like that.
Can I tell you that if I could afford the $50,000 out of Campbell's budget, or have somebody give it to me, I would jump on the system immediately. Same way with Dave Hall, Todd Bayshore, Mike Hope, everybody's out there. I guess why we're coming to you is we can't individually afford all this, but we're looking as an accounting to, hey, help us out for the police department, plant the seed money, let us do our yearly subscription, and it will pay dividends back. But we just can't front that money at any time. It's just too much money for us.
All the Cumberland County municipal police departments on here.
There's 18 of the 22.
There were some that don't participate.
Sharmanstown, I don't know that would, no offense to Sharmanstown would be the most utilized, for it, but
and the same way with Shippensburg Borough, I don't think they were on. I talked to Craig Scott, and since he was over at that end of the county, he didn't think he would use it or have the money in his budget. But on Fred's defense, I don't think he understood what Cobra is about, and we weren't able to touch base with him recently on that. But any chief that solves any crime, this is a no-brainer. It's just that seed money to get us up and going. as Metro was 15 years ago, this is what Cobra is today for us, but enhanced. It's Metro on steroids. Is what it is.
Why can't JNet and CNet do this? That might be a dumb question.
Well,
Explain
I think they do have it. They do have something similar, but it's nowhere close to that.
Okay. Previous life, before I went to Lower Allen, I worked for the Commonwealth. And I will tell you that it's the most frustrating thing that I've probably ever done as a career. I work with JNet, and there's a lot of interest, but at the state level, making things happen sometimes.
I'm sure you're not familiar with that at all.
It's very difficult, because he gets mired in the budget process and the political process. And one of the beauties of being in local government is you can make things happen because you can talk to people who are capable of making it happen. In the notification, we had a car flee at a high rate of speed the other night, and we got 3 of the numbers on the license plate. We didn't pursue for safety reasons because it was such a reckless fleet away from us. But we now know who that person is. If we enter them into the system, any department who even sees the car parked somewhere, we would get a notification that this person has probably half a dozen or more warrants, probably even more than that, maybe 24 warrants from everywhere locally in Pennsylvania, and they've been living in Florida, we now understand, and have an address in the city that they no longer live at. So they are right now out there somewhere. The sooner we can get them, the sooner we reduce the safety issues and the risk to our citizens and our communities. And this system allows us to get to that.
Dave, did you say that there are other states that are
Yes.
exploring this as well?
Yeah, in fact, I'm sorry. did you-
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, well, one of the questions I wanted to ask is, a good bit of our county is covered by the state police. Are they part of the Cobra network?
They don't have a actual record system to join the Cobra network. They don't have a data system that would fuel by the actual data. But what we've done in other counties with similar situations, Lehigh County and Chester County both have significant portions of their counties that are unincorporated. And in those counties, the barracks within those counties actually do have access to the actual search application to protect them. They don't contribute any data because they don't have any data to contribute.
It's
And
kind of
we did-
bizarre, but they
yeah,
don't
we've
have
never
a
had
system. Yeah, they don't.
They don't have one.
You would think that they would have one, but they
They can see what we do, but we can't see what they do.
They've made
At all.
a couple of efforts at that over the years, and have, when we talk about state issues,
all the efficiency of the
yeah,
state.
they've not been successful in moving forward a records management system, electronic records management system.
Okay, next question. Where's York County? Why aren't they part of this?
They, I know there's at least 1 or 2 of the departments are interested in it. I don't know that the entire county, I don't know what their status is. Do you know?
It's just we haven't had the opportunity to speak with them like we have with Cumberland Dolphin. It's just a different pathway to get there, and we haven't had that opportunity yet.
We've had Jason Loper from Fairview is very interested. Jason attends the county chiefs meetings. So there are a number of departments that have. They have a system they use from countywide basis called Metro Alert. And it's just a matter of convincing them that they need to spread outside of their own county.
What happens is Fairview is more connected to Cumberland County than it is to York County whenever it looks at us.
Wow.
When I say us, so Jason comes to our chiefs meeting, comes to our crime meetings, and it would just be a matter once he sees what this can do and how he can see our reports from CNET, and then he's connected with Newberry, Newberry's connected to York, vice versa. It's going to just spider web out because as soon as Jason's detectives tells him, oh yeah, we cleared this up because of Cobra, that detective in Newberry is going to want to be on Cobra because he's going to want to see what's happening. Cops are, I don't mean to be rude, but are lazy. We want to be able to get in and get out, make it easiest as we can to do our jobs. And if it's being able to sit behind a computer to find out where Vince has been, that's great for us.
What my client meant to say was
Yeah.
efficient with their efforts.
I count on the easy pages, I count 12 municipalities.
There was 18 at our count, so I'm not sure.
There's also the 911 center.
I think
there's-
probation and parole was interested in it.
And of course, the DA's office.
So we would be, essentially paying in addition to the 50,000?
No.
No.
Where's the sheriff's office contribution going?
The sheriff's office, well, yes.
That would-
Sheriff's
that would be
county
different.
money.
I guess, yeah, the sheriff's
Yeah,
office.
it's out of a different pocket, but you're same money.
Does this system impact at all, I don't even know how to ask the question, our public safety department?
Like, what do you mean by?
I mean,
Like IT related, like,
Yes.
like work impact?
yeah.
I can speak to that.
And
Wait,
clear-
no, it's fine. It's a standard question I get a lot. So this system there is no host, you don't have to host anything. There is no core or database server or anything that you have to host. This is all just from the local department, from Lower Allen to the Cobra network. That will not, it won't impact your IT. You won't have to spend any money on IT. There's no setup fees or anything like that.
Which is one reason why I support it.
Yeah. And we've spoken, so, before this. Yeah, the only impact, if there is any, is just making sure that the district attorney's office and any other county employees just have the access to it. But that's just an internet browser that you already have.
Okay, just relative, I'm looking at the request here, it says capital project cost, it says $80,536. Now that is I guess the subscription by the local municipalities, plus you're asking for $50,000?
No, and the $50,000 is the subscription. The $30,000 from other below that is the contributions from the individual departments, and the total then would be the for that year.
Well, all right, well, I'll put it another way. You're asking us to fund $50,000 of this cost in each of the next 5 years.
Correct.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so that's $250,000.
Yes.
Okay, and the municipal share is what? Over 5 years.
30,000
For each year.
And
Roughly.
so I guess my question is, since this is a law enforcement tool, is the reason why you're coming to the county and asking us to
Yes.
essentially pay the lion's share of the cost?
Because what happens, what will happen is it will be the $50,000 from the district attorney's office, the county to cover the $30,000 until we get the reimbursement from each of the departments as well. And so that way, again, we're able to.
This is part of the district attorney's budget then?
Correct. So the $50,000.
Do we have this in the budget?
Well, the $50,000 is in our budget for right now. We're able to do that. The initial $30,000, in the initial request, I filled out the paperwork wrong. I thought it was the $50,000. That's why their initial request was just for the $50,000 coming out of our budget, not realizing that the $30,000 was coming out from the original, the other, and that's why we revised it as a result of that. So
To 80,536.
correct.
Okay, but I'm going to go back and ask the question again.
And I can answer that, because we're coming to, and maybe if I'm wrong and if I am, I apologize, we're coming to you as mom and dad of saying, we'd love to do this is going to make our county a better, safer county. If I can get drug dealer off the street that's running from Philadelphia to Camp Hill or Philadelphia to Lower Allen, that I'm not going to have another overdose death. Or I'm going to be able to solve a retail theft quicker or a burglary quicker, because we're all on the same page on the county, because the silos are going up with Middlesex with one reporting system, Camp Hill with another, Lower Allen with another, and when we can bridge those gaps all with one system, it's going to make our county safer.
Chief, I
and more
appreciate
efficient.
that, okay. But as far as I know, the district attorney's office starts with the prosecution of criminals, okay? The law enforcement end is handled by local municipal government and or the state police. We have a lot of things, and we'll certainly consider this, but we have a lot of things that are being jammed down our throats at the county level.
Yeah.
Or the things that we're mandated to do.
Yeah.
Right? And considering everything from, a whole new program for pretrial services to try to deal with the opioid epidemic, to try to be smart on crime and smart on the criminal justice system. Things on our end, right, or that end up on our. And so if I look at this, and if this is, and I think it is, a tremendous tool, I don't understand, I really don't quite understand why the municipalities shouldn't be sharing the bulk of this, because they're the ones who are responsible for the law enforcement in their individual communities.
If I could speak to that, and I think that's an important point to be made, because of the fact that it seems to me that the way that we're looking at this right now is essentially the description that everyone sees the values. It's not like everyone's saying, okay, this is a crummy idea, or it's a question of priorities, which is important. And particularly since you have the view of above, like not just this, but everything else, not only just mandates. But when Metro left, we were left with a vacuum. This is Metro on steroids. So
Did we pay for anything to do with Metro?
Metro was not, because it was our own reporting system.
Right,
I paid Harrisburg City X amount of dollars to be able to use that as my reporting system and information back and forth from the county. With CNET, I'm paying it for information only. But understand, money's tight, the money's there, but I look at it, I'm not putting you on the spot or trying to be smart. But if you had a burglary at your house, and if I could solve that burglary and get your stuff back because I'm able to talk to somebody in Dauphin County, that's a win-win for our citizens in our county. The same way if somebody gets struck by a car, somebody dies in an opiate overdose, if I can track that person, I think it's a win-win. And to be honest with you, $50,000 is a lot, but if you look at what we could maybe save in a life or crime or manpower, to me it's kind of a drop in the bucket if we can have that happen as a team.
But going to your point though too, like I said, without Metro, everyone's blind. But this is Metro Plus. So not only are you getting, the Rosetta Stone is talking to each other, but you're getting it on your, which Metro never had, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're getting it on your phone, you're getting the alerts, you're getting something more than that.
So why aren't the municipalities willing to pay more than this small share if it of so much value to them?
Because in this particular case, and again, I don't mean to speak for the municipalities, but I guess I will. So in this particular case, it's got to be proportional to the size of the police department and the amount of use that they're going to have. Because obviously, Lower Island's going to be different than say Mount Holly Springs and things of that nature. So they're on a county-wide level with CID and with everything else. Yeah, that and with the 911 center and with the sheriffs, that's going to help as well. But on individual ones, it's for what their size and what their usage is as a result.
I understand that in relation to each other, all things being relative, but it doesn't answer the question of the totality.
Sure. I'm going to say this here. I'll use Cobra every day because I can, because I have the crime, I have the victims, I have that. He's going to use Cobra every day because he believes in it and he has the same crime because we want to clear up crime. Somebody, and I'm not using an example, East Pennsboro can't get it through their budget because there's not money there. Now Todd Bayshore's setting on him because he can't use that because there's no money there. Middlesex Township is the same way. If we can get the seed money from the county to plan it, we're here to put our money in on top of our reporting system. But you're not going to have all the departments go into it. So I'm looking for somebody out of Middlesex. I still can't talk to Middlesex because they're not the reporting system.
Yeah, we get that. I guess my question is if it's, and you're selling it well, but $1,700, so is it not worth $3,400 to you to hold it?
If I could pitch it to the council people, it most certainly would be, and I would say the same thing to them as I'm doing to you guys. But I pitch it for Camp Hill, but Middlesex doesn't do it or East Penn doesn't do it. What good is it for us?
And
if we can all afford $1,700, $1,200, $3,200.
And the other thing is, as it grows too. I mean, that's the important thing. I think is that as they see it working for larger departments and other departments as well. Again, I truly believe you're going to see even from the 18 to 22 where we have solid commitments right now. I think it'd be foolish for those individual municipalities not to grow and come on board as well, especially when you're going to have, listen, the county's committed to it, the DA's office committed, all these other municipalities. How is it that this one municipality is not going to do it?
So what you're describing, Jamie, is that a phased rollout would probably be feasible in that if certain municipalities aren't on board, it won't be long before they recognize the value, and they will be on board.
So, yeah.
So I think that simply makes our point that isn't this then worth more to the individual municipalities who will
May I?
benefit mostly
May I?
from it. I want to make
Yeah,
one more
sure.
point, because we're talking about, I've heard it twice here, about the efficiencies that are accruing this, and that's all very true, but those efficiencies are tangible to a dollar amount. The efficiencies are accruing to the departments at the expense of the county. That's, I mean, if we're just looking at this in pure financial terms, which we have to do as part of our due diligence, we have to look at that.
Yeah.
So there's a basic fairness question here, I think, for us.
May I say something? Because I think that this, one of the things that hasn't been discussed here, because honestly, this is just a different way the conversation went, but this Cobra system that you will be buying, hopefully will be buying, I presume, it's not just for the police departments, and it's not just for the district attorney's office. Chester County, for example, they initially bought it as a police system, but the county has that information, and this system, Cobra, is actually a universal translator out as well as in. So now the county itself in Chester County is using this system all across the entire CJAB process, the entire criminal justice advisory board process, from health and human services data to mental health records to anything that has any impact on the criminal justice process is now, from a county perspective, the system is returning its investment over and over again.
So I have to see specific applications.
Of course,
to understand the
of
value
course,
of
and of course, and so one of the ways this works, this system is actually deployed for the entire state of Missouri, different obviously than Pennsylvania, but just to give you an example of how that flywheel turns. In Missouri, some of the data sources that we aggregate alongside the police RMS are the county jail systems, which keep track of the actual incarceration records and releases and dates of incarceration. The state is having a serious problem with people getting unemployment checks that are actually incarcerated in jail. And we had put the system in, and the state came to us and said, you guys have this universal translator, you're bringing all this data in, you're hooking up your tools to it. Can we hook up other tools to this to make use of that data for other purposes? And one of the purposes they used it for, was to supply the Department of Labor every night with a data access feed that cross-referenced with the unemployment check rolls and saved the state $1 million in 1 year from not sending out unemployment checks. Now, obviously, I'm not suggesting that's a specific application for the county, but those things happen, and those types of efficiencies at the county level accrue very rapidly once this core is in place. This is not a one-trick pony. The data links that we create from the local agencies to the county are then useful by county agencies for other purposes that are within the governance purview of the agencies. And that's something that honestly, I can't sit here and give you a quantifiable figure for that. It wouldn't be fair and it wouldn't be responsible. But I can tell you that that happens all the time with these systems because we're not creating a black box here.
And this is probably an unfair question to ask you.
That's okay. I can ask this before.
Do you see, likewise, do you see any value in this potentially in the collections?
I was just going to say that because, you know, I can see for warrant collection units, I can see it for adult probation, I can see for the sheriffs for bench warrants, to get them in quicker, to cut down the cost of having to chase people down eventually, you know, for everything else. I do see a benefit for that as it pertains to Cumberland County as opposed to Missouri. And that's what I'm saying. I think it's important for you to look, I mean, that's your job. You have to look overhead for the entire county. But this is an application for the county that we would be able to utilize for all those other types of things.
We need to quantify the value. So if we could see some of those examples fleshed out a little bit more,
that's a good idea.
We would understand.
That's fair.
Perhaps
Yeah.
maybe attach a
Certainly.
monetary.
May I give you one in Pennsylvania that I know about. Bucks County, again, they actually use this for countywide reporting of domestic violence. Is a good example where the county actually has a grant program through what's called A Woman's Place. It's a nonprofit that actually worked with the county to get a grant from the Department of Justice, I think it was the Department of Justice, to basically curb the tide of domestic violence in Bucks County. They use this system, the police use it every day to protect themselves and the citizens. The county uses it to do a one-stop view across all the agencies in the county to get a quarterly report on domestic violence across the entire county that they then provide to the Department of Justice as in support of that initiative. So I don't know that that has a monetary value necessarily, but it is, I think what I'm trying to impress upon you as the commissioners here is that this is not just for the local police. This has applications and can be used to great effect at the county level to reduce costs and have county level initiatives.
What would you say would be a reasonable time for me to submit that additional information? What, I mean that's a valid.
Whenever you can. We're going to wrap up here.
Yeah, I didn't mean to hold up everybody. I'm sorry.
No.
It's a good idea, and obviously you've been very engaged, and we appreciate that. I mean, these are important questions
No,
that need to be answered. So.
you know, it makes a lot of sense. I have to be concerned though with respect to the county taking on a brand new obligation.
Sure.
It's not, you know, essentially within our responsibility in terms of what we're required to do. And we get mandates after mandates on top of mandates, you know, from the state. Of course, you know where they are with their budget situation. We still don't know, you know, exactly what the outcome is going to be. Some of these things, we know we're going to get a seventh judge. We got to figure out how we're going to pay for all that, because the state won't, even though the Supreme Court ruled that they're supposed to pay for a unified judicial system. So we have a lot of additional costs that we're getting hit with, and I could cite a bunch of other ones. But I appreciate.
Is there anything that we can do as the chiefs?
Well, what I'd like to
answer
know,
questions?
Dauphin County, what's Dauphin County, what are they contributing toward the system?
Same roughly.
50,000?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if Fairview Township in York County wanted to participate, would York County have to contribute $50,000, or how does that work?
First of all, they probably would not be putting data into the system because of where their RMS is currently, but they would have paid a user fee based upon the number of officers that they have as well.
Okay,
So
because, and I appreciate what I'm trying to get past is, you said seed money, Chief, and, you know, when I look at this, as I see it's a $50,000 annual cost on the county, at least for 5 years and even beyond. That's not seed money.
I understand.
That's an
Probably
ongoing, that's an
quarter.
ongoing annual contribution
Yes.
that we gotta figure out where that money's coming from.
Well, I think that the other thing that I guess the commissioners should keep in mind is that municipalities, this is one piece of what we do for law enforcement. My records management system, I pay close to a little over actually $20,000 a year for my records management system maintenance. It was much more than that in order to get it. That information is now accessible to the DA's office without me copying course reports when we arrest somebody and sending it in by paper. Now they have to process it by paper. They have access to this system to the electronic, right? They can actually look at my report as it was filed by my officers. So I think that the value add to something like this goes way beyond what the cost is if you start factoring. And I don't know how you quantify that actually, but all of the police departments are providing at their expense, municipality's expense, the base reporting system to feed this system, essentially. And we look at it as, and we had this discussion with the chiefs, crime is not an individual municipality problem anymore. It is now a countywide, a region-wide, it's a system problem.
So is that an argument for countywide police department?
Sure.
Absolutely. If you can convince your other elected officials.
I would,
33 municipalities, yeah.
I would say it this way, and especially with the mandates, because they seem to be falling out of the sky like meatballs on your head, and you're never going to be able to plan for a mandate, you know, because that's not something you can plan for ahead of time. However, this type of project is something that you can plan over a course of time in order to anticipate the growth of other application as well. And if you can alleviate other programs and help with other programs, that's like a future planning as opposed to putting out fires all the time, which is what we're kind of interested in. But that's important.
I'd like to see how it ties in with you know, our collections of fines and fees. I'd like to understand that clearly, and you know, with respect to the other jobs that we have, adult and juvenile probation, if there's a tie in there, then that,
I think that's an easy one.
And if you want an example of probation, this is actually something that is key in Westchester County. Because of the subscription features in the system, probation and parole obviously have a list of people that they need to keep track of, and whether they're on probation or parole. They spend a lot of time and a lot of money making sure that those people are where they're supposed to be. This system with the alerts actually will tell them, because of the multi-county nature of this, they will get a proactive alert that someone who's on their probation, who's on one of their cases, is actually in Allentown right now. And he just had
A traffic stop, yeah.
For a traffic stop, nothing more. Sheriff's deputies about to serve a knock and talk warrant. They have no idea who's in that residence. There could be 16 cars outside of a 500 square foot home. They're with CTAC at the point where they're about to enter that residence. They can run those plates, find out who those people are, and see if they have any violent history before they enter that building. DAs, they can track witnesses. They can make sure witnesses aren't going to places that they're
Or
not
even
supposed to be.
even as simple as pulling up a police report during trial.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
You know, I
They
mean,
do it all the time.
it's just that, you know, and maybe you have a different experience, but it's been my experience that county judges want things like that. And if you know, they don't want to inconvenience the jury trial, you know, to stop as a result. And, you know, by and large, we, do our best to accommodate it, but yeah, that's certainly, those are all legitimate. So thank you for your
Jamie,
time.
can you provide us data? Chief, let me answer your question. Looking at the amounts that the municipalities will put in, and looking at, I know my township, what their police department budget is, this is minuscule. If they could maybe bump it up a little bit.
We all run into the problem of budgets being done already, so for us to get it into 18, we may have trouble with that. So we can obviously reevaluate that for the 19 budget, but most of our 18 budgets are already done. Like, I think I have my last budget due tonight. So I would hate to see us wait a whole different year when we could be using it and maybe reevaluate it again.
Ours is built.
Yeah, that's it.
I was gonna say that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So that's my concern. Okay, thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Good to see you, Chief.
I have my note.
Thank you.
I'll make
Bye.
you copies
Thank
of
you.
any, I'll make you copies of any of this you want. Okay, you're good? Okay, thank you. It's just all I have.
Sandy should have one.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. It should have gone through finance and the whole idea
Okay.
process.
Great.
Okay.
Thanks.
Excuse me, gentlemen, just 1 minute, I just want to get my stuff. Sure, that's it. He's going to donate his equipment.
Yeah, you we can use the break.
All right, thanks, guys.
I appreciate the time. I didn't mean to monopolize your time. 'Cause I think it's
Well, we have still a lot of questions, but
Thank you.
James, I appreciate it.
I'm a lawyer, I talk a lot, so, and I'm Irish, so I talk it.
So this is the last of our budget meetings, unless you just call another one. Oh, that's okay.
Thank you,
Have a good
guys.
day, thank you.
Good to see you.
so you just asking you want $50,000?
Actually, I think I heard me.
Yeah, I heard it too.
Because the way that I'm seeing this set up is we'll be paying it in advance and then the municipalities will reimburse us. So the
Oh,
contract
that's
will
what
be with
it is.
us for 80,000.
Yeah, and that's out to fit.
And then and the sheriff department looks like a subscriber, so we would not be getting a reimbursement through them.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing too, and then Jamie said, I didn't add up the 12 municipalities there, but anyway, we need to look at this a little closer. But, because he mentioned probation, whatever, I mean, all of a sudden, it's not 50,000 anymore, it's like 16,000.
Well,
Annually.
I'm not sure, I didn't read over the paperwork closely because it's very different than when they first originally
It's confusing.
described it to us. At first, the 50,000 was a one-time, and then when they were looking into it, it was a subscriber.
We just.
So I don't know if it's by user or by hits, I don't know how they come up with that 80,000. So if we add people, I don't know if the cost will also go up. Or if it's $80,000 for growth as the top of the
But the municipalities have really figured it out. I know Silver Springs Police Department, but it's over $1 million, way over $1 million, and it's $3,000 is all they want to contribute, sorry.
He spends, when I left, it's $1.5 million, so at least.
Well, Silver Spring's probably much higher than
Yeah.
I left. Freaking double at least, but anyhow. Sorry.
So what I don't know is if we have to put more users on it, if they'll charge us more.
Yeah.
Or if it's, if the countywide is this, that is.
Or something here, I don't know.
We'll have a chance to ask them.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
And then from our perspective, this is just the last opportunity to just have a discussion, talk about anything that changed. Nothing's changed since our last meeting, so, do you have any additional questions?
The only thing I know is on November 1st, the Farmland Preservation Board is holding a special meeting, and they will be making a recommendation to us. So, you know, depending on that recommendation and this board's determination on that, you know, that could change whatever you might have in the budget on, you know, for farmland preservation. In terms of what we would, you know, and again, I would like us, if we can, to include the language which provides detail on the farmland preservation program and what is anticipated to be certified for the 2018 program, like it was in the 2017.
Last year, we added that piece, and so that's the part that will need to be updated based on the board's decision.
And I think we need
But it
to-
doesn't change the numbers.
Well, we're gonna have, I think we'll have to have a discussion on that prior to, you know, tentative adoption on the 6th. You need to send this to the printer or something, right?
Yes.
So if we make a decision on that in terms of by November 6th, we're still good?
By November 6th, we're still good.
Okay. All right. So hopefully we can have that discussion. Is there any other, well, we gotta figure out, I mean, you have nothing in the budget for this pretrial services that been talked about, right? Or you do?
Contingency.
The way that we fund positions is through the contingency budget. We never put new positions into the budget unless they're already approved. So where, and over the past 5 or so years, we haven't had enough positions to impact the contingency because we also have turnover. And when turnover happens, you have vacancies for a month or two that reduce salaries. So there's not a specific dollar amount set aside for pretrial services, no. But at this point, there hasn't been enough impact to adjust our contingency for new positions. Whether that changes throughout the year or not, I don't know. But we have like 2. It's in here. I can show you in a second, but we have
Before I
to
forget, Sandy,
Yeah.
I thought I saw an email, maybe I misread it, that you and Mike and Dana had met and have something to us like yesterday.
I have the sheets.
All right, okay, all right, I just didn't want to lose some of that, thanks.
It is 200,000 is what we have set aside for contingencies for salary and benefit. Now, we have not had to use any of that money in the past 5 years, it's just continually rolled. And even if we added pretrial services, I don't know that we would have to use it because theoretically it should be lowering other expenses to offset that.
Okay. So you're saying that, you know, there's a reasonable cushion in there to address some of these issues, but somebody's got to keep the calculator going.
And we do. We do. We watch it. very
Because, I
closely.
mean, we just, you know, Gary and I just heard the, you know, the public safety folks, you know, they want to buy a new $50,000 truck. Okay, so these things add up. you know?
Very quickly,
Good.
and so the $50,000 truck, you know, we need to talk about whether they do need enough, it's an expansion of their current fleet. Do they need to expand their current fleet? They do have 3 vehicles, but the one vehicle that they're trading in was, oh, somebody else isn't using that vehicle, we'll use it for a few years, and now they want to replace it with a truck. Do they need the truck? They're saying they do. I missed the capital meeting yesterday, so
I'm just getting a feeling, because then we heard, well, we need to buy some new switches or something that will come with the CAD system or something. That's another like $17,000. I mean, it's like.
And that is needed, that's for sure a replacement of existing equipment. But the truck, I do think we need to look at to see, you know, maybe they do need that truck, but maybe they don't need something else that they already have. I don't know who's using them, I don't know how often they're out.
Well, we need to be asking not only what's needed, but is it needed now, as well as is it needed at all?
Is it absolutely needed? I mean, we need to, you know, I mean, I think there's people out there think we have all this money sitting around here, and then we should be able to include in the presentation of the request we just got. So, you know, I think we better be careful because we've got a lot of big things coming down the pike at us.
Absolutely.
You know, we understand that there's going to be a death penalty trial, right?
Is there?
We have that. Oh, you don't know about that? We were advised of that. Okay, that's like 800,000, right?
At least. So
Well,
that's news to me.
We better get all that. You know, again, these are all things that are coming at us. You know, so we heard that how
See
long?
everybody's pens, right?
We heard that how long?
So we've had death penalty cases come before, and usually they plead down and out before they happen. And so we don't budget for death penalty, but we do need to be on alert and aware of it, because if they don't plead out, it's very expensive.
We heard that somewhere here. In one of our meetings.
So just to summarize on the pretrial thing, so those positions don't exist. So they are technically not in the budget, although there is contingency which is where we would draw it from, but that's also a drawdown.
Correct.
So I think that's what we need to keep in mind again, is the fact we are drawing these things down. I'll raise this just for a moment because we're going to address it next week, but this is a question I think we need to ask also in regards to is $500,000 that we put for farmland preservation. If depending on what comes back to us, that's a big, big, big chunk of change for us. And sure, it's a goal, but this board needs to address whether we want to, if we're going to take on an ambitious goal akin to what's been suggested to us, then we need to be thinking about a long-term means for paying this and not just saying, well, we got it for now, so let's spend it, and we'll deal with the inevitable crash whenever it happens. I don't think that's the way we should proceed. That applies just as much to that issue as it does to the pretrial or anything else, and especially because we do have the option of visiting some type of borrowing. We would need to discuss that at length with you because I know there's a borrowing schedule in place. But if there's going to be a 20 or 25 year commitment to accumulating these development rights, then we're looking at a very high price tag, and that can't be done out of the general fund for more than a few years to really feel the pinch. So we'll have that discussion.
I'm not going to get into that debate right now. All I will say though is then, you know, we also, in this year's budget, we had some challenge grants for the library system. I don't know where we are with that. So that money shall be still sitting there, right?
Correct. So $100,000 is obligated if they meet their measures.
Which I think from what they are.
I think they are meeting them, if not all of them, most of them. And I know they're actively motivated.
We're through 2017. It comes to an end here in what, 2 months?
Correct. And if they meet the measures in 17, we'll accrue it in 17 and pay it in 18. That's how the grant is written. They have all of 17 to meet the measure. And then.
So you're anticipating, budget-wise, you're anticipating that that's going to be paid out.
Correct. We're anticipating it for the next 3 years. And I haven't gone back and read it, but I don't think that measures for year 2 have been agreed upon. So that's one thing that the board needs to work with the library on developing next year's measures for the grant.
Right now, do you have we in midstream here, we authorized $100,000 for CADIC, okay, middle of the year. And what we heard anticipated was that they're going to come back and ask us for, at least probably a like amount coming up here in the next budget year. So do you have that factored into the budget too?
We have the
250,000 in there for library and anything else that you choose to do.
How much?
250,000.
So for the library, assuming they meet the measures as according to the MOU, and then 150,000 additional.
I know you guys, yeah, Jim.
No, I'm just, then I'll stop.
No, no.
I know
Well,
we're dragging
I
on
have a
here.
question. So
But I mean, in terms of-
100,000 that we budgeted last year for Katie, but that we never paid out, that just rolls over. Is that part of what line item? Where does that land?
Are you talking about for 2017 or 2016?
I believe 16.
In 16, if budget is not spent, it goes away.
Okay.
So we budgeted for a new 250,000 in the commissioner's grant, so it was 150 for grants and then 100,000 for the library.
Okay.
And so far, the CADIC has spent 100, is that what this is? So next year we have an additional 100, that answer.
Yeah, all I'm saying is it seems like we get kind of like patches of requests from all over the place. And that's why then I think, it's important we need to prioritize in terms of what is, what is important, what is an obligation, what is it that we believe is a majority board of commissioners, is important. So these are things we just need to, again, keep our eye out for. Because I just got to kind of get the feeling like we're getting jammed with a bunch of people because they think we've got gold at the end of the rainbow here, and it's not so. Okay.
You guys do a good job at alerting us, but I think we have all said at one time, you see $30 million reserve, it's like jackpot. That jackpot can go away.
Well, it's
If we're
one-time
not
money.
careful.
It's one-time money.
Yeah, so-
It's not meant to fund ongoing operations.
Yeah. And I don't trust the state. I really don't. I'm sorry. I mean, they're trying to wrap things up, I think, today, but I don't know, what's going on
Do you miss it, Jim?
there. No.
Anything regarding the nursing home that, I guess you said there were no major changes?
Well, the nursing home we have budgeted, I think it's, off the top of my head, I'm gonna say it's about $600,000 expense. It started out around $2 million, we mentioned in a way that the NHPDs are budgeted at 3.45, and the census is the same as last year, and the mix is the same as last year. So they chipped away at operating expense to get that number down, so I think they are budgeted very tightly, and it'll be very hard for them to meet the operating expenditure numbers. We spent a lot. It's all in the mix. It's all in the census in the mix.
Well, let's not forget, if CMS ever comes back and approves whatever it is relative to the new regs, the new tile and all that stuff, that's 700,000 right there.
Correct.
So, all I'm saying is these things add up after a while. And that's why I really like when I heard about the truck today, I was thinking, okay, we've got 16 trailers. How are they pulling the trailers around now? That was going through my head. We need to examine that a little closer, I think, too.
And who's driving the trucks? Is it county employees? Is it volunteers from the municipalities? Is it?
If they need a new truck, fine, but this is not like, splurge time, okay? I mean, I kind of get the feeling sometimes that,
And based on what they told us, I'm not disputing that they don't need a big truck to haul the bigger trailers. I just am not sure that they need a fleet of 3 in the trailers. I don't know how many times they have 2 trucks out and need another one.
well, that was it.
We can get that.
I don't know.
Maybe we can get that information.
I did ask.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Gary, got anything else?
No.
Sandy, anything?
No?
Any? So this will be up for approval November 6th.
It goes on for you
On
in
the-
November and then approval in December.
All right. So changes can be made between December if it's a certain percentage of something or other? Is that how it goes?
Yes,
I'm not saying we're making a change, I'm just asking a question.
yes.
Otherwise, it won't be advertised.
And that's a pretty large change. I don't foresee us.
No, no.
I mean, anything that big. We have to re-advertise, but, I believe it looks at the entire budget too, not each funding source. So the 10% is the entire budget, yeah.
Do you see anything, I mean, just anticipating we're not planning to open up a new wing at the jail, but do you see anything like in the immediate future with respect to the prison in terms of the personnel or anything?
The contract for medical came back, and it's a substantial increase, but I don't believe that is coming. Because of the, you've heard Earl and everybody talk about, the prisons becoming MH and treatment center instead of a prison. So those things are gonna flow through that cost of the expenditure.
But you don't have anything in the budget plans to open up wing, which is what,
No.
450,000, 7,000 or something like that.
And that would just be the staffing side of it, that doesn't include increased food and all of that stuff, that's just staffing is 430. But no, that's not included in the budget.
Okay.
All right, I guess we're going to wrap up, unless there's any other questions. All right, thank you. Is there any other business we need to discuss?